Hi, I'm JC of Communicate with Command, and today I'd like to talk to you about training. That's right, training in the workplace. Specifically, I'd like to talk to you about training within the industry. Sometimes it's referred to as TWI training. Well, I want to go over TWI training today with a little bit of deviation. I want to add my own flair to it, and maybe this can help you out in the workplace. I want to make it clear today that our training we're talking about is for adult learners. There's a lot of content out there for teaching children, but not as much for teaching adults. And that's what I really want to address today in our training within the industry chat. Before we dive into that methodology, we have to understand that these adult learners are very different from young learners. Adult learners come to a job with life experiences. They come to you with previous work experience. They come to you with a whole different knowledge base and a different mental attitude than young learners. So we need to think about that first. The best thing you can do is set your expectations right up front. Set them right away. Get those expectations out at the very beginning to let them know, hey, this is the job we're here to do. I expect you to do these things. We're going to go over these tasks today. So you're preparing that learner a little bit. That's what you need to do. You need to prepare them. Now, one great thing about them coming to the workforce with previous life experience or with previous work experience is the fact that you can relate what you're doing to what they've done before if you find out a little bit about them. So ask them what they've done before. Talk to them and find out what kind of other job roles they've had or what other kind of life experiences they've been through, and anything that you think could relate to something they're doing, then you can draw that connection for them. You can draw that connection for them or give them an analogy that might help them understand something a little bit better. If you show these learners that you're willing to listen to them and really care about what they're saying, then they're going to trust you a little bit more. You showing you want to listen to them helps them build that trust and helps them open up a little bit. And then all of a sudden, your learning process is going to get a lot easier. So that's one of the best things you can do is listen. You ask a few questions about where they're coming from and what they've done, and you listen. You pay attention to them. Adult learners also typically like a lot of feedback. They typically have to practice things a few times before they get it right, but feedback is going to be vital for you. And I like to follow the plus minus plus method. If you don't know what that is, it's very simple. You give them a little bit of positive feedback, then you give them something negative, something that they can work to get better on. And then you give them a little bit more positive feedback at the end. So it balances out. You start with something positive, you have something that they need to work on in the middle, and then you give something positive at the end. And that's a really great way to frame some feedback so that they'll actually listen to it and process that negative thing that was in the middle. And this is a great thing to do because adult learners are very self-conscious. You know, we've had a lot of life experience. We're self-conscious about a lot of things because life happens, right? But if you give them that feedback in that format, then they're more willing to accept it and not be so self-conscious that they did something negative in there. It's also important to note that adult learners vary widely in their processing times. So when you're teaching them something, it's good to realize that some people might take a very short time to process the information, and others might have to think about it for a while before they can process it and it makes sense to them. We know some people have to think about stuff and then come back a day or two later, and then it kicks in, right? Then it makes sense in their brain. So realize that you're dealing with a very diverse audience of learners, and then think about those processing times. Don't judge people for not catching on right away. Give them some time to process. Different types of people are also different learners as well. So not just as far as the time goes for processing, but different people learn in different ways. Some people are more pragmatists, right? Some people are more active, where they have to put their hands on to learn it. Other people relate more to theories and why something is happening instead of just what happens. So if you explain why something happens, then they're more likely going to catch on and learn the process that you're trying to teach them. So consider the fact that people come to the workplace with those different learning styles. Okay, let's get to the 4 steps of training within the industry. The first step is going to be prepare the worker. Second is going to be present the operation. Third would be let the worker try it out or perform it or do the job task. And fourth would be to follow up. So let's talk about each one of these steps. First, prepare the operator. Prepare the worker. So we've already really started this first step when we asked where they're coming from, what kind of jobs they had before, what kind of experience they have. Ask a little more here in the preparation phase. Ask them, what do you know about this machine if they're learning to run a machine? Ask them what they know about this job task if it's some other task. Part of this preparation is putting them at ease so they're more willing to listen to you, more willing to trust you, more willing to listen to the steps that they have to perform, right? They're going to be more open to actually doing the job tasks that you give them because they're going to trust you a little bit more. So that's part of this preparation step. You also need to give them the job description. Tell them about the job that you're about to train them on. Even if it's just one task in a whole big set of job tasks, tell them about that one job task in detail. Give them that job description and give them all the items. Give them who is going to do it. Give them what happens. Give them where it's going to occur. Give them when they should do this task. You give them all those elements, and then we're going to get to the how. How do we do this? Okay, but think about those other ones first. When you think about those other elements of this job description, then, that'll really help you fill in a lot of gaps of the things that they need to know. Now, you might have been doing this job task a long time, so you might be a little bit complacent to it. You might kind of glass over a few things that you think anybody should know because you've done it a million times, right? You have to think about this from their perspective, and covering all those things, who, what, when, where, how, why, all those are going to help you fill in those gaps for a new operator, for a new employee. When you do that, think about all the things that go along with the job. Think about the machines that you have to deal with. Think about any equipment that they'll have to operate. Think about any tools that they'll have to use. Think about the materials that they'll handle. I mean, explain all of those. This is the material we use. This is why we use that particular material. These are the machines that we use. This is what those machines do. This is how they work. Tell them why those machines do what they're going to do so that they can see where the product's going to go in the next step. All those elements are important for them to better understand and grasp what's going on. When an adult learner knows what's going on better, then they're more likely going to understand how to do the process and how to run the machine, right? It'll also help them later when they're trying to troubleshoot things. When they try to troubleshoot the machine, if it goes down or if something goes wrong, if they know why it's doing what it's doing, then they have a better chance of troubleshooting it and resolving the issue. So give them all that information. Talk about product design, talk about the layout, talk about the workspace. Give them a tour of that little workspace. Even if it's just around one particular machine, give them a whole tour of that little workspace. Talk about housekeeping in there and what they need to do to keep clean. Talk about safety issues. Give them all that information. Make yourself a list if you need to so that you can go over all these items when you're defining the job for them. Okay, that's all a part of defining the job and preparing the worker. In that preparing the worker stage, you should talk about what you're about to show them and why you're going to show them that particular thing. That's really preparing them well. Okay? Once we've done that, then we can move on to actually doing it. Let's perform the operation for that person, for that employee, for that trainee. Let's perform it and show them how. This is the I do it stage, right? This is the I do it phase where I do it and they watch and listen. So this is where you show them how to do it and you explain every detail as you go. Do it slowly. Go very slowly, take your time, explain in exquisite detail every little subtask that they have to do as you do it. And that will really help them. When they get that combination of visual and audio, and they see you do it tactily with your hands, right? Then they know a little bit better about what's going on. They can absorb with all those different channels, all those different senses, right? What's going on, and kind of process that information a little bit better. So go slowly, explain every single little step, and go through it with them and do it piece by piece, task by task, part by part. As you do this, make sure you share your thoughts. Remember, this is to help their understanding. This is not some robotic following of a work procedure, right? This is to help them understand. So don't do it robotically. Go slowly, share your thoughts as you go through it, and that will help too. I think the most important part of this phase is as you go through it slowly, you emphasize the key points in the task or in the work that you're doing, that you're explaining, that you're demonstrating to them. So as you go through it slowly, that's fine. But think about how your voice changes when you get to those key points and really emphasize those. And it really helps to quantify things too for adult learners. If you say, the first thing we're going to do is this, and then you add emphasis to it. First, let's insert this into the machine. The second thing you need to do is, so if you add that emphasis to those words, it really helps point out those key ideas or those key tasks that they have to perform, and that'll help them remember it a little bit better. It will help even more if you have a little job aid on the side that has those quantified tasks enumerated for them so they can look at it and follow along. Or later, say, a week later when they're trying to do this on their own, then they have that little task list to look at because they've forgotten something. I forgot what that was. Oh yeah, number 3 was this. Then they can help themselves by looking at that list. So that's the second step, presenting the operation. Let's move on to the third step, and that's let the operator perform it. Let the worker perform this task that you've taught them now. Now, as you do this, instruct them, before they begin, instruct them that they need to recite to you what they're doing as they do it. And this will help them process it as well, especially if you have them emphasize those key points or those key parts of the task that they have to perform. Now at this stage, this is the they do it phase, right? Not you do it anymore, they do it. So this is the they do it stage. This is the they do it phase. And as they're doing this and reciting to you those key points and the key ideas that they have to get across as they're performing this task, then, let them take their time, let them ask questions, and encourage them to ask questions. Look for feedback. Look at their face, look at their stance. Do they look confused? Do they look like they hesitated a little bit at one particular point? Jump in right there. That's your opportunity. When they hesitate a little bit, jump in and say, do you have any questions about that? Ask questions. Don't just tell them. This is the point where they're trying to do it, so ask questions. Do you have any questions about that right there? Can you tell me what's going on right here? Can you tell me why you did that? So if you're asking these kind of probing questions of them, it helps them think about it and process it a little bit better. Now, if they don't answer right away, some people have to think about it for a minute before they answer, so give them a few seconds to answer. But if they really look like they're struggling, then jump in and say, do you remember we do this? And you can throw in a little bit of a hint there to help them out. Because adult learners, like I said, they're very self-conscious, and nobody likes to feel embarrassed that they can't remember something, right? So you look for that feedback. This is one of the biggest keys as a trainer that you need to focus on, is looking for that feedback, that nonverbal feedback typically from the trainee, so that you can jump in and help them out with some hints, give them the next step if they need it. This is the place where they need to ask questions though, so encourage that. What kind of questions do you have? What are you missing here? How can I help in this step? So those are the types of questions you should be asking to prompt them to ask. And that will get them to thinking about it. Instead of you just taking over and doing it, which they're not going to learn from, right? You're asking questions to help them process the information. That's the key here. Now, if they go a little bit astray with their method, that's okay if you think it will still work. Now, if you know it's not going to work, or if you know that they're being dangerous and not safe, then, stop them immediately and help them figure out what's going on. Say, okay, we don't do it that way, but do you remember what happens when we do this? So you rephrase it, you put it back into a question for them, you stop them so that they keep themselves safe, and then you gently guide them to the right path, to the right task that comes next. And if you're having them stress those key ideas, that will really help. And you need to make sure that during this phase, they understand. But don't ask them, do you understand? Because they're going to say yes. They don't want to be embarrassed and say no. Very often people will say yes when they don't really understand, right? We've done it all before. We're all guilty of that. So instead of asking them if they understand, ask them questions to see if they understand. Why does this do this? And if they can explain it to you, then they're understanding it, right? So that's a great way to find out their understanding, is by asking those questions. It's all about asking questions in this phase. And then you can have them do this task over and over a few times until you know that they know how to do it. That's the key. You've got to know that they know how to do it. And that's what you look for in this phase, in the you do it phase. Now, again, in this phase, feedback is key. Just like I said when we were preparing the operator, adult learners need a lot of feedback. So as they're performing this, give them a lot of that feedback. And remember that positive, negative, positive feedback thing? Give them some positive feedback here for sure when they do something well, because that will help boost their confidence a little bit. Plus, it'll help them trust you a little more so that they can ask you questions about that negative feedback thing, that one thing that they needed to focus on a little better and improve some on. So give them constant feedback, especially if you're having them do this task a few times. Give them a lot of positive feedback mixed with some negative feedback so they know what to fix. Make sure it's constructive feedback. Don't judge them. Don't be harsh. Be gentle with it. Say, maybe we could focus on this and do this better. Give them some negative feedback in a kind form. Okay, but surround it with positive feedback, because that helps boost their confidence and helps them trust you so they'll learn better. Okay, that was step 3 in the training within the industry methodology, and that was let the worker perform it, right? So let's move on to the 4th step, which is the follow-up. Now, the follow-up is where the worker's actually performing it on their own, okay? You've let them do it a few times with you guiding them. This follow-up step is where they do it without your interference, without a lot of your guidance. This is where you start pulling back some of that coaching that you've been doing to help them through the tasks. So they have to go through the procedure on their own. Let them know that up front. Okay, they can still ask you questions, but this is where you're going to start pulling back that coaching. You've felt confident up to this point now that they know what they're doing a little bit. So now let them take over and show you the whole process. Have them explain it task by task, but you stand there and watch unless they ask questions or unless they're unsafe, right? Then you jump in. But at this stage, they should know all those safety protocols. They should know those danger areas. They should know what to look for. And at this stage, this is where they're doing it on their own. This is called the follow-up. I call this the you do it phase. This is where they are doing the procedure, right? And as far as feedback goes from you, you can give them some feedback, make it a little personal there, give them some great feedback, but let them try their best to make it all the way through that process without your interference. This is where they are practicing the task or the procedure to achieve mastery. So as you go through this, as they do this, as they go through this, then make sure that you as the trainer are assessing accuracy as you go. Maybe take some notes to yourself so that when they're done with this procedure, then you can give them that personal feedback. And you'll know, oh, at task number 3, you did this pretty well. But at task number 4, we need to work on that one a little bit because you were a little off in what you were doing there. So this is all about measuring their accuracy, and you're past the point where they're, where you are confident they're going to stay safe. We're at the point now where they're doing it to make sure that they can do it on their own, and you're looking for accuracy in each one of the tasks, in each one of the key points or the key ideas of the procedure. So have them go through it on their own, and you give the personal feedback at the end. Take notes during and give the feedback at the end. And there you have your 4 steps of the training within the industry methodology. First, you prepared the worker. Second, you presented the operation by demonstrating it and walking them through it. Third, you let them perform the action and let them have some practice with your constant feedback and coaching. And then fourth, you followed up. You let them do it and you followed up with your feedback at the end. And there you have those 4 steps, and it works really well, especially if you consider those things I talked about, because they're adult learners. Give them lots of positive feedback, help boost their confidence, help them when they need it, answer those questions, and be kind when you offer that feedback, right? There you have it. I hope you got something out of this video. If you did like it, please like and subscribe. I'd appreciate that. Again, I'm JC with Communicate with Command.